Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program mega worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Well, Johnny Million and I were chit-chatting before the show began, and nothing really happened this week. I mean, it's...
crunchy cheese.
Yeah, you got crunchy cheese, which we were agreeing is now, ironically, a product that you can buy, and something we used to avoid as children.
Yep.
If the cheese has gone crunchy, do not eat. But now, thanks to food dehydration and creativity in the snack world, knock yourself out. Except on the radio. So now we've got Johnny Million, who's going to be jonesing during the entire segments, staring at his crunchy cheese so he can eat it during the breaks. So if anybody will be keeping me on the breaks today, it will be Johnny Million, because he's addicted to crunchy cheese, and he's going to be staring off camera.
Hit that break, huh?
Terrible. It's just terrible. And I don't know. I didn't do it all at once, but I had the joy of absorbing the entirety of the Mike Lindell cyber conference, the Cyberama, the Cyberthon, that he had this week.
He's a special kind of charming. I cannot take my eyes off him.
Let me tell you, I can't wait for Bill Macy to play him in the movie. Well, if you want me to do an inventory of the darn cars, I'll go and do an inventory then. He's got that kind of energy all the time.
Just an intoxicating delivery.
Yes. He had I had the joy of doing half of an interview that he did. I'm doing the other half on either late Sunday night or Monday on my live stream of his sort of post-show wrap-up of how he thought it went. And he thinks it was a huge success because now people can go back to their states, because he had all 50 states there, and they can go back to their states and yell at their state representatives and judges and their secretaries of state, something they weren't previously doing. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Good Lord. Hal Vickery, thank you so much. The super chat for a straight jacket for Mike Lindell. I think we're going to have to bolo him like a wildebeest. You know what I mean? Just ride up on, some sort of motorcycles and throw some sort of, two balls on a string, just wrap around his feet and take him down and go, I'm doing an inventory. So bless you. Thank you so much, Hal Vickery. Good to have you with us. Hi. I've been going over this. I started the whole thing off with an obvious disdain for the people involved in it, and a ready amount of comedy and ridicule for the entire process itself. But I also sort of approached it, and I think you probably do, currently, with this idea that Mike Lindell's just kind of a sap. He's not a bad guy. He's just kind of, misguided and well-meaning, and he seems like a decent fella. He's just kind of, maybe he's got holes punched in his brain by, the effects of his addiction. Maybe he's got, just tendencies that, towards authoritarianism that stem from a bad childhood.
This is all very generous.
Yeah, yes. This is how I really approached him. When I would look at him for quite a while, until the lead up to this, and then the thing itself, and then the aftermath. I have now come to the determination that he is not a nice fellow, that he is genuinely a jerk, that he is a jerk to those around him. That's the reason why none of his family have come to his rescue. That, we all look at him and go, why is someone close to him not sat him down and gone, these are not, these PCAPs you think you have are not evidence of anything. These incursions by foreign computers on the Secretaries of State's computers are not hacks. They are media companies in foreign countries checking in with the unofficial updates, the uncertified updates, the ones that the Secretary of State gives to Steve Kornacki. The foreign press does that too, all over the world, especially places that have areas where policy towards that country might change greatly over the next during the next administration. Countries like Germany and Spain and China and Italy and England and the UK in general, because of COVID, because of travel, because of vaccinations, because there were a lot of reasons that had nothing to do with Trump's wall or tariffs or any of that other stuff, that these countries would be concerned about who's going to win. If Trump stays in, what are we going to do? If Biden gets in, what does that mean for us? So they were checking every hour on these things and just constantly doing updates. And so there's activity between computers all over the world and the update computers at the Secretary of State's office. Now, any idiot knows this, because this is just that people refreshing web pages. If you go to a very popular web page, one of the ones that nearly crashes the internet that everybody talks about, and you look at the data, which is readily available afterwards, you don't have to capture it at the moment. You can see who was checking and refreshing and checking and refreshing and checking and refreshing and checking. It's like when people get tickets to a concert. It's the same kind of activity. And these PCAPs are that kind of activity. It's anybody who pays any attention to just the worldwide nature of our elections knows this. Now, Mike, one of my favorite elements of Mike Lindell's storyline, for those of you that have lives and loved ones and don't want to dive into what his argument is, but while you're walking around doing your normal life stuff, it seems to be affecting the way people are behaving on the street, because they listen to Newsmax and OAN and sometimes Fox during about 3 hours of the evening. Where are they getting this stuff? Where is this lunacy coming from? It's coming from Mike Lindell. It's coming from Flashpoint and a bunch of these other pseudo-Christian outlets that push this idea that if God has a plan for the country and it's a Republican plan, and if it's not the Republican plan, it's a sign that the devil is working. And that's, honest to God, that's the drive behind what Mike Lindell believes, right? That is what he thinks about this. He, in his soul. The details then don't matter, right? He's fighting the devil. And it never occurred to him that that often, I guess, the devil's greatest trick is proving that he doesn't exist, is the whole idea. I would argue that no, the devil's greatest trick would be that he proves that he convinces you he's everywhere, and therefore why not join in? But needless to say, in Mike Lindell's world, he sees the devil everywhere and in everyone except himself, and in his own behavior. Now, some of you may have heard that he was attacked and that he had a moment where he feared for his life, and a police report was filed, and very many people around him were concerned for his safety, and now he has to get a bodyguard and move into a gated mansion. The details of the attack are something that I can relate to. Apparently,
because you are Morton Downing Jr.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's true. And I've been bum rushed by Antifa. No, that Lindell, what he gave everybody the impression of when he came on stage was that he was attacked. He was physically wounded, and yet he was going to go on. He was going to brave his way through this. I'll make it, together, eh? So he ends up telling the story, which was an overzealous maggot fan, a Trumper, wanted a picture with him, and the look in the guy's eyes looked crazy to Mike. He looked wacky, this guy, and yet Mike's a good guy, so he'll take a picture. And then the guy, when he was taking the picture, dug his thumb knuckle into Mike's ribs, and it really hurt. It was like an attack. Oh! And he doubled him over, and it really hurt, but he didn't show anything, and he didn't say anything to the person, and he let it go. By the way, I would like you to store this this whole story for later when the right wing attacks women who come forward about sexual abuse, assault, or harassment, and why they didn't speak up at the time. So, let's just, all right. Then he gets in the elevator and he nearly doubles over, and he tells he goes in and his assistant or whoever's with him goes, what's the matter? And he's like, I was attacked, basically. So they file a police report about this dude who clearly meant Mike no harm, was just really excited to meet Mike Lindell. And I have to tell you something, Mike Pillow, if you're listening, all of your fans are nuts, okay? All of them will physically assault you because they want to touch you, because no one else who isn't crazy wants a selfie except to mock you. And that's a terrible place to be. Now, I, having taken a lot of selfies and pictures with people over the years, have had overzealous fans who squeeze, poke, and grope. It's happened. We even jokingly call the sexy liberal.
When I get a little frisky.
Well, that is true. Yeah, but that's you. We're close. We went to high school together.
All of a sudden, I'm overzealous.
Sorry, we have to take a break because Johnny has to eat some crunchy cheese. When we come back, I want to. I guess we got to start the countdown for the Trump's inauguration. So we'll do that when we return. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's progressive talk. There is, I have to say, a lot of excitement in Trumpistan right now about Trump's imminent reinstatement. I understand Steve Bannon is picking out a new gown. They're planning a parade. 3 doors down is tuning as we speak. Lee Greenwood just ordered a whole new box of lozenges, and by midnight tonight, I know what you're thinking. It was supposed to be last night. Well, look, things this amazing and special take a little time. Okay. You can't rush this kind of stuff.
But didn't we have some prep time before this? Like, wasn't there a big run up? Like, didn't we know that last night was like?
No, we did not. No. I mean, you don't want to overplay your hand. You don't want.
That is not what they want to do.
No, you don't want to show your. That's right. You don't want to show your cards too early. So they were waiting till it was locked. You know what I mean? Till all the data that Mike Lindell had could come up. And I have to say, while it was a joy to watch people pretend to know things about computers, now I never went to DeVry, but being named after a computer and having to have other work as an actor and a comedian to pay my bills at certain times in my life, I've done a decent amount of techie stuff. And I'm also, with all my computer stuff that I'm constantly working on for this show and for the stuff that I do, I'm pretty on top of this stuff. You know what I mean? And I have a pretty basic understanding. I know enough, let's say, Johnny Million, if you were, say you bought a new 2 terabyte hard drive.
Sure.
Are you going to bring that sucker home and just let it sit there with 2 terabytes in one? Or are you going to partition that sucker?
I don't
know what I mean?
Yeah, I got to go back and forth.
I know. That's a good debate. Yeah. Okay, let's go straight up to 4. Let's go. That's inside your price range these days. You got 4 terabytes. Do you have one giant icon on the screen, or do you have? I personally, I do 1 2 terabyte and then 2 1 terabyte partitions on that thing.
I like it.
For organizational purposes.
Sure.
And I would have, instead of folders for stuff, I'd have entire, disk images, so that if I had to back up, say, just my video files or just my audio files, I could, just take that image and copy it to another hard drive to safely back it up, as opposed to trying to, back up an entire 4 terabyte drive all the time, right?
You're making me want to go shopping for drives again.
Yeah, I'm going to send everyone to Best Buy right after this. Everybody's going to rush out and do that. By the way, they don't sponsor the show. So I know enough about, let's say, partitioning a drive for those very reasons. And sometimes it's for security reasons. One's a secure partition, one isn't. One's got a password lock on it, the other doesn't. Like those kind of things. Pretty standard stuff. When you've got 6 people on a panel with a giant screen behind them in a hotel in Sioux Falls, and Mike Lindell wandering in every 15 minutes to read what he calls a hit job, which for anybody who doesn't speak Mike Pillow, is a story that accurately depicts what's going on at his event. That's a hit job, just so you know. And he would wander up and interfere with this. But these guys would sit and talk about, why are they partitioning these drives? What is going on here? These are questions that need answering. Because look at the name of the partition for the drive. Look at it, read it. It's right there. So I spend a lot of my time when I wasn't bored or snickering, being kind of overwhelmed, not with the idiocy of the people there, because clearly there were a lot of dum-dums running the joint. But the thing that stuck out to me the most, and this applies to sort of the vaccine stuff, and we're going to get into the rise in cases and the rise in vaccinations, quite frankly, that is, we have hit a point where just over 50% of Americans are vaccinated now, and over 70% have had their first dose. So we're within 2 weeks of that 70% number, right? And these are, that doesn't include kids and people with autoimmune disorders and people who can't, right. We need, So that's still another thing we have to deal with. But what occurred to me during this whole the Mike Pillow thing, all 3 days, was that beyond the fact that Mike Pillow does not understand what he's being told by these people, and so he is clearly the victim of an enormous grift. The people behind it, and he's paying these people millions of dollars. They are siphoning millions of dollars out of his bank account, telling him what he wants to hear, and then when push comes to shove on the day, one of them went to either to Daily Pundit or whoever and said, "Yeah, it's not there." Now, no one, you nor I nor anybody in my chat room thinks that those guys couldn't have figured that out from having access to that data a month ago or 2 months ago. But Mike Pillow was paying them to dig, and dig they did. Mm-hmm. And they knew it was BS. Mike Pillow very well may not. And basically the entire event was translating that grifting talk that they used on Mike Lindell to bait him into giving them millions of dollars for this stuff. They're basically turning that on largely the Republican voter base, but any open ears in the country. And the idea is that if I use a bunch of phrases like PCAPs and servers and routers and just say the word hacker every Thursday, basically the same level of technological speak that's in the Net, the wonderful Sandra Bullock movie.
That movie.
It's at the point where somebody there typing on a keyboard could have just said, "We're in." That moment in every hacker movie. That by speaking using those terms to the audience that was watching, you could dazzle them with BS and convince them that there was something to this. And now, if they were doing with Mike Lindell, which is try to pull money out of their pockets. Just like, send us money. If this had been a big telethon, I mean, obviously he was selling pillows. But if they said, we need money to do this because we got to fight and blah, blah, blah. Even if he presented that as that originally, which I'm glad he didn't think of that. And I'm sorry I said it out loud, and I hope I didn't give anybody any ideas. But had they done this as a telethon, essentially, like, this is the proof we have, we just need to get it to the judges, and it's going to cost money for this legal case. You need to help us pay our legal bills to do this. If they did it on a 3-day telethon, they'd have raised millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. No question. From the people that were watching, RSBN, OAN made a ton of money in super chats running this thing. They also got a revenue share with MyPillow for showing it on their networks. The danger is that instead of going for that money grab, what they have effectively gone for the January 6th type. The person who would be, driven to take action on January 6th. And they're telling this person, we have this evidence, they're not letting us show it to you. We have this proof. They're doing everything they can to physically stop us. This is an act of violence. Now, over the last, 4 years, we have heard talk about how when left-wing activists say language is violence, that is an excuse for them to loot and riot and kill people later, because I'm just defending myself. If your words are violent, then I have every right to physically attack you, right? Violence is violence. I'm just defending myself. And it's a scary notion. And certainly people on the fringy fringe, may believe that, but they wanted to paint the entire Democratic Party as kind of, part and parcel to that. But what we saw was 3 days of they are physically attacking us. They are hacking our things. They poked Mike Lindell in the ribs. They did everything they could to stop us. That's what he said about CNN. CNN never tried to stop anything. They reported on it. They laughed at it a little bit, but they didn't try. No one tried to stop it. It happened. It finished. No one interfered. But the idea that they were trying to stop it is part of the concern I have, that it foments violence. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks. I know you hear Patreon from a lot of people, but it really does help us.